Now in the video about posterior cranial fossa, we are going to talk about the fossa being the largest, the deepest. It has hindbrain, mainly the pons and medulla in the front and cerebellum in the behind. Boundaries we are going to discuss. Anteriorly we have the superior bordle of the petrous temporal bone and dorsum sala of the sphenoid bone. If I have my skull over here and I can adjust the lighting. So this region, which is the petrous part of the, or you can say anterior part of the petrous temporal bone, and then this middle portion, this is known as the dorsum sala. Then the posterior part has squamous part of occipital bone, and on each side we have the mastoid process of temporal bone and mastoid angle of the parietal bone. So anteriorly we had this region, which was your petrosal bone. Then this was dorsum sala, which is a part of the sphenoid bone. Then posteriorly we are going to have this occipital bone, and on both the sides we are going to have the mastoid process and the mastoid angle. Mastoid process is going to be of the temporal bone. This mastoid process is of the temporal bone, and angle between the mastoid process and the parietal bone is the mastoid angle of the parietal bone. So angle is of the parietal bone, whereas this groove is of the temporal bone, and it is going to lodge your cerebellum. You can easily see that you have this groove, and it shows that the two cerebellar hemispheres were present over there. Now this is actually your squamous part of the occipital bone. Laterally we have the mastoid process of the temporal bone, and this middle one was the squamous part of the occipital bone, and these are the mastoid processes of the temporal bones on both the sides. Now this is the mastoid angle of the parietal bone. The angle is of the parietal bone, whereas this process is of the temporal bone, and this portion is of the occipital bone. In the floor region, first of all, in the median plane we have the squamous part of the occipital bone posteriorly. Anteriorly we have this baso-occipit or basis sphenoid. So posteriorly the squamous part of occipital bone in the midline, and anteriorly in the midline we have the basis sphenoid or basis occipit. Also you should know that this foramen is known as the foramen magnum. So anterior to foramen magnum we have the basosphenoid, and posterior to the foramen magnum we have the squamous part of occipital bone. So in the median area we have the dorsum sala, clivus, and the lateral portion we have the mastoid temporal bone, the mastoid angle of the parietal bone, and the condylar or lateral part of the occipital bone, as well as the posterior surface of the temporal bone. So actually anything that is anterior to the foramen magnum, we are going to call it the clivus. It includes the dorsum sala along with this basis occipit. But if we are going to separate them, so we can call this dorsal sala, and this is the basis occipit. And together both of them are known as clivus. And similarly on the posterior part of the foramen magnum in the mid region, we have the squamous part of the occipital bone. Just lateral to it, we have this region, which is a part of the temporal bone, and this is the mastoid process of the temporal bone. And just here we have the angle, which is the mastoid angle of the parietal bone. And the other features, in the median region we will discuss clivus, the foramen magnum, the squamous part of the occipital bone having internal occipital protuberance, internal occipital crest, transverse sulcus, and deep fossa. First of all, you should know that deep fossa is the region of the cerebellar hemispheres. The transverse sulcus is going to have internal occipital protuberance. It is actually between the internal occipital protuberance at the mastoid angle, and it has a transverse sinus. The transverse sulcus is going to lodge the transverse sinus. And internal occipital crest has the Vermian fossa, and internal occipital protuberance is just opposite to the external occipital protuberance and has the confluence of sinuses. The foramen magnum, it is actually a large portion and it has an anterior, posterior and lateral portions. And the clivus, it is just in front of the foramen magnum. It is formed by the fusion of the body of the sphenoid posterior portion, that was the dorsum sala, and the basis occipit, as I told you. And now it has a groove for the basilar plexus of the vein and supports the pons and medulla. Firstly, we are going to discuss the clivus, which is actually a union of the basis occipit and the superior surface of the sphenoid bone, the posterior portion, that is the dorsum sala. Now we have this pteroccipital fissure, which is actually a fissure between this petrosal part of the temporal bone and this occipital lobe. In the previous video, we discussed that the groove that was on the superior surface of your superior surface of the petrosal bone or the petrous temporal bone, this was for the superior occipital fissure or the superior portion of your superior petrosal nerve. Now this groove over here, this is part, the petrous occipital fissure, it is for the inferior petrosal nerve, and just behind it is leading to a groove over here, which is your jugular foramen, and it is going to pass major nerves. So now middle portion of your jugular foramen passes the 9th, 10th and the 11th cranial nerves. 10th is your vagus and 11th is your glossopharyngeal nerve. So now we have the foramen magnum, which is divided into an anterior and posterior portion. So we are only concerned with the posterior portion because it's a neurovascular compartment and it lodges the 11th cranial or the accessory nerve. And you know, this foramen, which was the jugular foramen, it was lodging the 9th, 10th and the 11th cranial nerves. Now this foramen magnum can further be divided into an anterior margin, providing the attachment to anterior atlanto-occipital membrane, the posterior margin providing attachment to posterior atlanto-occipital membrane, and both the lateral margin providing attachments to the alar ligaments. Then over here we have the internal occipital protuberance, that is just opposite to the external occipital protuberance. It is actually the portion where the confluence of sinuses, where your superior sagittal sinus, your transverse sinus, as well, all of them, and the occipital sinus, all of them meet. So this is that portion, the internal occipital protuberance. Then on both sides of the internal occipital protuberance, we have this transverse sulcus, which is actually going to lodge your transverse sinus, which is a part of the veins that are draining your brain. Then from the internal occipital protuberance, this transverse sulcus, it goes to the jugular foramen through the sigmoidal sulcus, from where the sigmoidal sinus goes over here, and then it forms the internal jugular vein, which goes downward through the internal jugular foramen through its posterior portion. Just anterior to this internal occipital protuberance, this is your internal occipital crest. Now this crest is going to divide both half of your cerebellum into two cerebellar hemispheres like this. Now just a little bit anterior to your internal occipital crest, you have this Vermian fossa, and this Vermian fossa is going to lodge your inferior most portion of the vermis of the cerebellum. Now we come again to the skull. Now in the midline you can see this foramen magnum, and I told you it anteriorly, it is having the anterior portion and having the anterior occipital ligament, posteriorly posterior occipital ligament. On lateral side, both sides, we have the alar ligaments. Similarly, on the posterior side over here, we have the internal occipital protuberance, which is a place for the presence of all the confluence of sinuses. Just lateral to it, we have this region which is going to have your grooves, which are the transverse sulcus, which lodges your transverse sinus. A little bit anterior to it, we have the sigmoid sulcus. And then from the sigmoid sulcus, you can find your jugular foramen. And through the jugular foramen, through just its posterior portion, your internal jugular vein is going to go out. Now you need to know that the middle portion of the jugular foramen is going to lodge the 9th, 10th and the 11th cranial nerve. Similarly, this foramen magnum, it has an anterior portion and a posterior portion. The anterior is the ligamentous portion and the posterior portion is going to lodge your 11th cranial nerve as well, the spinal root of the 11th cranial nerve. Now this internal occipital protuberance is going to lodge a crest which is going to lead into the foramen magnum, and this crest is known as the internal occipital crest. Now this crest is going to divide both of the cerebellar hemispheres into two portions. Now both, you can easily see or spot the cerebellar hemisphere that they were once sitting in this portion. Now the other thing that you need to know with the jugular foramen, the sigmoidal sinus, the transverse sulcus, and then this internal occipital protuberance and the internal occipital crest. Just a little bit, you can say posterior to the foramen magnum, we have another fossa or another groove, which is the Vermian groove, which is going to lodge your inferior portion of the vermis, which is the middle portion of your cerebellum in the longitudinal section. Now just anterior to the foramen magnum, as I told you, the dorsum sala and the basi occipit, both of them will combine to form a structure known as the clivus. So in the midline portion, we are done with all the things and their features. Now we are going to discuss the features of the things that are on the sides. And you know, on the sides we have this mastoid process of the temporal bone and the mastoid angle, which is related to your parietal bone. Now if we look at the lateral area chart, we come to know that the jugular foramen, we have done it. It was part of the lateral portion. Now the hypoglossal canal, it is actually associated with your foramen magnum, but we'll look at it. Then the jugular tubercle, the condylar part of the occipital bone, the posterior surface of the petrous temporal bone, the mastoid process of the temporal bone, and the jugular foramen. These were actually the 4 things: 1, 2, 3 and 4. We are done with jugular foramen, so we are left with 3. The mastoid process of the temporal bone, as you can see, it is in the lateral wall of the posterior cranial fossa and it is lodging the sigmoid sulcus. We are also done with this. Now the posterior part of the petrous temporal bone, it is having internal acoustic meatus, aqueduct of the vestibule and subarcuate fossa. We'll discuss it in a minute. Firstly, let's discuss the hypoglossal canal, which is the anterior condylar canal. It is postero-anterior to the jugular tubercle, between the basilar and the condylar portion of the occipital bone. Now this is your hypoglossal canal, just on the inferior portion of your foramen magnum. It is also known as anterior condylar region. So your hypoglossal canal was your anterior condylar canal. Then just a little bit posterior to it, we have the posterior condylar canal. So jugular foramen, just a little bit posterolateral to it, the anterior condylar canal, and just a little bit posterior to it, the posterior condylar canal. You can clearly see the anterior and posterior condylar canal if we look from the base of the skull by flipping it. Now just on the posterior surface of the petrous temporal bone, we have this internal acoustic meatus. And this acoustic meatus is going to pass the nerves, which are the vestibulocochlear and the facial nerve, or the 7th and the 8th cranial nerve, as well as the labyrinthine artery, which is the major supply of your internal ear. Now, as I told you that the condylar part of the occipital bone has the anterior condyle and the posterior condyle. The anterior one is the hypoglossal canal, whereas the posterior condylar canal is in the lower part of the sigmoidal sulcus. And the jugular tubercle is actually the occipital condyle. Now the posterior surface of the temporal bone, it had internal acoustic meatus that we have studied until now. Just behind the internal acoustic meatus, we have the aqueduct of vestibule, and just below it we have the subarcuate fossa. Let us look at it on the skull. So we come to the skull now, and this was our petrous temporal bone. And you can see that just below the petrous temporal bone, we find a hole over here. It is actually your internal acoustic meatus. So a little bit inferior to the internal acoustic meatus, we can find the subarcuate fossa. So subarcuate fossa is going to be a little bit inferior to it, and a little bit lateral or posterior to it we are going to find the aqueduct of vestibule. Both of them are not visible over here because they are part of your inner ear. That was related to your petrous part or the posterior part of the petrous temporal bone. Then the internal occipital protuberance, the internal occipital crest, the Vermian fossa, we have done all of these things. Now in the posterior, in the foramen magnum, we can find the anterior and the posterior condylar canals. The anterior condylar canal is just over here and it lodges your hypoglossal nerve or the 12th cranial nerve. That is why it is known as hypoglossal canal. And on the posterior side over here, we are going to have the posterior condylar canal. And sometimes in the midline, we also find the occipital canal. And this was all related to your posterior cranial fossa. The boundaries which are anterior to the foramen magnum, this clivus, the posterior portion of the petrous temporal bone on the sides. Posteriorly, we have this occipital bone, its squamous portion. On the lateral sides, we had the mastoid portion of your temporal bone and the mastoid angle of your parietal bone. Then on the midline, we had the foramen magnum, then the transverse sinuses originating from this internal occipital protuberance. The transverse sinus go outwards and then they become the sigmoidal sinus, which drain into the jugular foramen and they become the internal jugular veins. And the jugular foramen was lodging your 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerve. This foramen magnum was lodging your 11th cranial nerve in the posterior portion. It was having the anterior parieto-occipital ligament anteriorly, posterior parieto-occipital ligament posteriorly, on the lateral side the alar ligaments. Then we took the internal acoustic meatus. Then a little bit posterior to it we saw the vestibule, and a little bit inferior to it we saw the subarcuate fossa. And all of these are parts of your inner ear. One thing that you need to know that this portion, the internal acoustic meatus, is going to lodge your facial nerve as well as your vestibulocochlear nerve along with the labyrinthine artery, which is going to supply your internal ear. So this was the whole each and everything related to the posterior cranial fossa. Now if you have watched all the 3 videos and you have understood each and everything, make sure to like, share and subscribe so that our Mr. Skull can be happy. Meet you in our next video.